this week, Thanksgiving week, to be joined on the Peter King podcast by Alex Smith. And for those who really don't know the Alex Smith story, I'm just going to recap it for a minute and bore Alex to tears as he is listening right now. But on November 18th, 2018, Alex Smith was sacked in a game against the Houston Texans. And he suffered on that sack what's called a spiral and compound fracture of both the tibia and fibula in his right leg. He had 17 surgeries to combat sepsis and a flesh-eating bacteria that threatened not only to have his leg amputated, but which threatened the life of Alex Smith. And Alex rehabbed in part at the Center for the Intrepid, which often treats wounded combat veterans. That is how serious his leg injury was. But the story is having a happy ending at this point. He replaced the injured Kyle Allen for Washington on October 11th, played part of that game. And then he made his first start back almost 2 years to the day at Detroit for Washington, at Detroit. And Alex, I really appreciate you joining me on the podcast. And I just can't tell you how incredible your story is. And I know that everybody tells you that all the time, but I wonder if you get reminded of it on a daily basis.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me, Peter. Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, every day I wake up, although it's obviously more and more normal as the day goes on, I'm at my first step out of bed, I am reminded obviously of the consequences and repercussions obviously of what happened, when I obviously had the break and more importantly the infection after that kind of caused all this. So yeah, I'm reminded on a daily basis, like I said, it's clear every day when I get out of bed and I put my foot down, that life for me is forever changed. And then on some days more than others. 2 days ago was in the military, as they call it, my Alive Day. 2 years to the day, when I did break my leg, the military uses that term, the Alive Day, obviously resulting from an incident in war. Usually, mine happened to come from J.J. Watt. So yeah, some days more than others. Certainly, it was really special to be out there this last Sunday and to start a game. Playing quarterback in the NFL is something that I, even as hard as I've worked and in my deepest of dreams, I wasn't ever sure was ever going to happen again, and thankful for that. So yeah, in a lot of ways, good and bad, reminded of that day and obviously life moving forward.
Alex, I think probably a lot of people who are listening to this, and just so that everyone knows, we're recording this 6 days before Thanksgiving, Friday, November 20. And on Thanksgiving, obviously, Washington will be playing at Dallas. So that is how Alex Smith will be spending his Thanksgiving this year. But I want to just try to get into your head a little bit about what this all has been like from sort of a mental standpoint. One of the things that probably most people would think, Alex Smith, you've made $194 million in your career. You're 36 years old. And in the first time that you played football after this incident happened, you're playing the Los Angeles Rams, and there's one play where Aaron Donald basically hops on your back and is just trying to drill you into the ground. And I just am thinking to myself at this time, man, retire, please. So what is it that drives you to continue to do this?
wasn't like early on there when I was, stuck in a hospital bed or even confined to a wheelchair. It wasn't like at that point, I was sitting there adamant that I was going to go play again. I was thinking about walking. I was thinking about, playing with my kids. I was wondering about obviously the rest of my life with my family and what that would be like. There's been so many people I feel like that have invested in me in these last 2 years. And there's been so many people that have come before me that I've been the beneficiary of, in the military, especially, and for me, it's always been eyeing that next step. And for me, for a long time, the first step was just literally that, walking. And then going forward from there on to the next task. And I know I'm an old dinosaur in the football world, at 36, but in the spectrum of life, I got a lot ahead of me. At least I hope I do. And for me, it was really about finding out what I do have left, and if I have limitations, what those are. And I spent a long time, in a negative space when I couldn't do anything, when I was stuck on a walker, with a external fixator bolted to my leg. There was a long time I wondered what I'd ever be able to do again, and just sitting and thinking about that. And a lot of times, obviously, that doubt creeps in, and then all of a sudden I got to kind of start slowly. I got to start doing things, and I got a chance to take some of those things head on, and it felt amazing to try and do that. And conquering one task led to wanting to conquer the next. And I don't see how I could stop going, faced with this challenge. And certainly I'm obviously incredibly lucky that they've continued to progress, and I still feel like they are. But I don't see how I could stop trying to take those down. And certainly the last big one for me was coming back and playing quarterback at the NFL level. As scary as that is, even for myself, for a long time. I got young kids, and they see everything you do. And certainly it was a great reminder for me every day to, how to attack each day. And certainly faced with this adversity, how I was gonna treat it. What kind of attitude and mindset was I gonna have?
When you get under center now, do you have any different emotion running through you? Does fear ever enter into your thinking at all compared to October 2018 as a quarterback?
Yeah, just to say this, obviously there's an element in football. There's real repercussions. I mean, it's a physical game, and there's always been that element even before this injury. And that's part of what is amazing about football, is playing on that edge, that feeling of being alive, because to some extent the repercussions are real. Obviously the importance of every game and every play is so big and so heightened that the range of emotions you get playing the game, it's intoxicating, and really that's also part of the reason I wanted to come back and see if I could, when things had progressed. But going back to the Rams game, no doubt, it had been 2 years since I'd been hit. And the last time I did, my leg broke. And I just spent, the previous almost 2 years doing everything I could to protect my leg, and then all of a sudden now I'm running out onto the field to play tackle football again. But so there was certainly an element there of those first tackles, the one you said, Aaron Donald jumping on my back. How was I going to handle that? And that was a step for me.
How did you handle it?
I didn't know it was Aaron at the time. I was very cognizant that a human being was on my back at that point. And how surreal that was. That was basically my first tackle. Like the first time getting hit was basically that sack. And I guess if there's a way to test your leg, what better way than that? Kind of like ripping the Band-Aid off.
Did he say anything to you?
No, I had no idea at that point who it was. It wasn't until after the game. Friends had shot me the picture of it, and obviously I don't know if that's ever happened to me in 16 years of football, but all of a sudden the playback, it happens. So, but that for me there was a definite step, that first playing time against the Rams, was a step for me, because definitely my next, when I got to play against the Giants, my next time out was very different. I definitely felt like I'd moved beyond that, as far as that it wasn't even in my mindset. It was really going out and executing and playing well. And then even more so this last week, going out there and starting against the Lions as another step, now with a whole week of preparation and being the starter, and felt really comfortable out there. No apprehension at all. Being out there, I felt like I'm moving well, really comfortable back there, seeing things, and obviously being able to play the game at this level.
You were injured on November 18th of 2018. 4 days later, it was Thanksgiving.
Yep.
You were in the hospital, and you were
Yep.
starting to be in some significant trouble. I watched the E60 story, so I know the story. So do you have many or any recollections about Thanksgiving 2018?
Yeah. Thanksgiving, I think for my wife and family and I I think we'll think of this, certainly the injury, always around that. So yeah, Thanksgiving was a big day because I was really hoping to be discharged the afternoon before Thanksgiving. I'd had my surgery, everything had gone well, they said, and so I had to stay a couple of days before being discharged, as was just normal procedure. And so I was really hoping to go home that Wednesday afternoon and be discharged. And 2 years ago, ironically, we were playing the Dallas Cowboys at Dallas 2 years ago. So I was really hoping to go home and be able to watch the game, spend Thanksgiving at home with my family. And our team doctor, Dr. West, who had left with the team to go to Dallas for the game that same Wednesday, she had swung by right before the team left to see me. And that's when I was still I was in some pain and still had like a very, very mild fever. And she really talked me into staying one more night. What was, for her, it was kind of like, what's the rush? Let's just stay one more night. Why not? You can go home early in the morning. And thankfully she did talk us into that, because it was that night when things got bad, when my blood pressure dropped and fever spiked and I really lost consciousness. And then obviously they realized that I had a serious infection. So I was thankful for her advice. Yeah, and she turned around and flew back the next day, because I went into emergency surgery. That was my first debridement, they call it, and I went
You
into
went to
emergency
emergency surgery on Thanksgiving 2018.
Yeah, I was out of it. I'd have to check. It was either
Yeah.
Wednesday night or early Thursday morning on Thanksgiving Day that I went in for my first surgery, my first debridement. Like I said, I was pretty out of it at this point. It was all a fog, but I went in for basically almost a week straight of debridements and surgeries. And then from there they'd go every other day. It basically went that way for almost 2 weeks of trying to get the infection under control. So that's really when things changed. Yeah, Thanksgiving 2 years ago is really when, obviously, like I said, my life forever changed.
So you don't really have fond memories of that Thanksgiving, do you?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, I mean, but in my head, it's like I said, I was out of it. Obviously, things changed. We lived in the hospital for a month. Spent my whole family in there for Thanksgiving. We had, was lucky enough, Mr. and Mrs. Snyder had, sent us a bunch of Thanksgiving dinner into the hospital, and we, my family and I were able to, I remember this part of it, that, trying to enjoy it, obviously, before things went sideways. And so, yeah, but we lived there for a month. So there's also a lot of weird memories for me. I was stuck in the hospital bed, and, lucky enough that I had a lot of family around every single day that was there, and obviously wife on my side. So not negative memories, but certainly something I'll never forget.
What's so interesting about reliving that with you through the documentary, which was really, really done well, and not only that, but it was so good that you chose to do it, because now there is a roadmap for people who have incredibly difficult injuries like this. But what was so interesting is that your family was really, really tough through this process. And your wife asking Dr. West at one point, if you were me, would you basically support amputation of my husband's leg? And she said yes.
Yep.
And you still fought it, and obviously that was the right decision to make. But I wonder now, with the benefit of time and history, as you approach this Thanksgiving, what are you thankful for?
Yeah, it's gosh, so tough to put into words. I think certainly first and foremost, grateful for my health right now and my family's health, my kids, my wife, my extended family and friends and loved ones. Certainly grateful and thankful for their health, and obviously wishing anybody that is going through it, any kind of illness or pain, obviously wishing them recovery and, peace of mind. You realize looking back what a privileged life, and I still obviously how privileged the life I lead and certainly led, and that I'd never really faced anything. I had never really faced a challenge like that. And, first and foremost, to have a partner by my side in my wife. I was out of it, like I said, when things got really scary, and certainly amputation was right on the doorstep right there, and even probably hours away from it at one point.
And she had to make some decisions for you.
Yep. Yeah, and her and the doctors dealing with that all, and doing that. Thankful for her, and to be juggling 3 kids, and then the 2 years afterward, when I was in different states of helplessness, that her strength through all of that is something that obviously I'm incredibly thankful and grateful for. I think that, the things that are most important to you going, obviously my kids are so special to me. Being able to play with them, I'm so thankful that I can do that every day, that I get to go play with them, and whatever it is, enjoy being with them, and that they're healthy. And that I get to, at this point, it's still so surreal to me that I get to lace up cleats and put a helmet on. And yeah, I got to wear this brace to do it, but how amazing it is that every day I get to go do this, and how awesome that is that things have progressed this far. And obviously I'm incredibly thankful, because I'm just lucky in that way. I just got lucky in that sense, in the recovery, that things kept progressing, and that I get to do this still.
I have 3 quick questions for you. Number 1 is, what's the most memorable message you got through this whole trial? Who's the person who reached out, who either surprised you, or whose advice or help was hugely important to you, that might be a little bit of a surprise to people?
Gosh, that's such a great question, because there were a couple things that really meant a lot to me, and certainly that month in the hospital when I was there, and then even the months after, when things were really tough and I was in a wheelchair. I had so many people reach out to me, whether it be phone calls or texts or emails or just wishes, and people, especially the unexpected person, that reached out and just let me know that they were thinking about me, and how much that meant to me in those days, and just a random day to get a random text message of someone, wishing me well or thinking about me, and how much that meant to me through those hard times. And really, it was such a great teaching tool for me to be a better friend, to those around me, because we don't know how to handle those situations. Are hard when you're on the outside, looking in, and I, for me, it's always wondering what are the right words or the right thing to say, and really there is no right thing to say, and it's just saying something sometimes, or being there, and how much I appreciated that. I did really appreciate, when it was dark, and like you said, there was no roadmap for me, having the consultation and expertise of the Center for the Intrepid throughout that process, It was amazing. Dr. Alderetti down there who ran the center and has been integral throughout the entire process for me coming back. Johnny Owens, who was the head PT down there and certainly coordinated a lot of my physical therapy here back in Virginia with my physical therapist, Seth Lee. Those guys that continue to inspire me. And I watched so many videos of servicemen and women going through the rehab and what I was going to get to do and the steps and the process. And it certainly gave me a lot of hope and visualization. And I spent countless hours watching those videos, hoping to one day have my turn to do it. So that really helped me, helped inspire me.
When Patrick Mahomes was emerging as a really good player for Kansas City after you left,
yep.
I remember having a conversation with his dad, Pat Mahomes, the longtime Major League Baseball player. And he said to me about you, Patrick can never repay Alex for what Alex did for his career. And when you hear something like that, what do you think? I mean, here's a guy who was drafted to take your job, and
Yep.
you were about as gracious as anyone could be. And as it has turned out, obviously he is what he is. He's one of the biggest stars in the game. And I wonder, you look back at that, what's the lesson of your relationship with Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, I mean, I think I really, was being a early pick and a young quarterback playing and understanding how hard it is, how hard of a situation and it is, and it's tough. And I remember obviously I felt like I had a tough road, certainly as a young player, and not wishing that on anybody, I remember being a young guy and you get drafted, you have no control over where you're going or the situation you go into. And so for me, it was immediately also, I think, going to the bigger thing, the special thing about football and certainly team sports in general are those relationships of being in the locker room and finding out pretty quick that, yeah, a lot of times media wants to pit you against each other, especially guys in the same room and quarterbacks and things like that. But it doesn't have to be like that his trajectory and career and mine aren't pitted against each other, and then the ultimate thing, to be honest, coming down to it is Pat obviously is a great teammate and was a great teammate coming in as a rookie. He was an awesome kid. He came in every day. It was a ton of fun to work with. He competed exactly what you want. And so I think that it's just as much him and his part of the relationship as me. And then obviously I feel like a lot of that's been overworked. I certainly wish I could run to my left and fling a ball, no look back across the field. I certainly wish I could say that I taught Pat some of that stuff, but a lot of that pretty innate. And certainly there's a lot of people there that, as a quarterback, that have an impact on your success and Pat's hard work and preparation as well. I mean, he was a kid that came in every day. He beat me in there every morning as a young kid and worked hard and kept his head down. And obviously it's hard to come up with enough good things to say about him. I think not just as a player, but as a person, he's a special kid, a special person to have that kind of success as a young player. And I think to be as grounded as he is really unique in this profession.
Are your children ever afraid when you go to work on a Sunday?
No, not at all. Kids are funny in that way. But even my family, it's so funny. I played, you play in the Rams game, and it was my first time coming back, and it was messy for anybody who didn't see it. The second half was pouring rain. It was really sloppy. Not what you envision as your first time back. But anyway, I came home and, my family obviously very pumped, my wife and kids really excited for me. And, a little celebration that night, even though we got our butts kicked, and it was bittersweet for me because I knew that it was sloppy, but, that was kind of my family's reaction. And then fast forward a couple weeks when I felt like we all put the whole, tackling thing behind us. And then I played in the Giants game and, had some success and thought we had a chance to come back and win that. And then I threw two really poor interceptions late that cost us the game. And I come home and both my wife and oldest son are both like, who are you throwing to at the end of that game? Like what were you thinking? And like how quickly, 2 weeks, I think it was only 2 weeks later. And I'm like, what happened to the family that was just so happy I was playing? And all of a sudden, it's, demanding the expectations. But I mean that in a good way. So, yeah, and certainly my kids, they love Sundays. Sundays are special to them, and they're huge fans and love playing. So, but, yeah, we're back to that now. We're back to, demanding results.
So the game on Thursday, you'll play in Dallas. I would assume family Thanksgiving dinner, I guess, on Friday this year?
Yeah. You kind of bump everything to Friday, and we'll get back late that night and do it all Friday. So
how do you think what will be the emotions when you guys all sit down to dinner as a family that day?
Well, they'll be better if we win. That's for sure. Everything's better with a win. No, but I think, I think the biggest thing is continuing to see the big picture. Being grateful. Well, there's so many things to be thankful and grateful for us. And I think keeping perspective is important, especially in this profession, and especially when you're in the thick of it, and keeping perspective in life. And so I think this is obviously what Thanksgiving's about, is that exercise. Hopefully we're all doing it more than once a year, and reminding ourselves of how many great things we do have in our life. 2020 has been a bizarre year, but still a lot to be thankful for. So yeah, that'll certainly be our expectation, and like I said, it will be better with a win though.
Alex Smith, I really appreciate you taking all the time. I kept you far too long. I appreciate your graciousness, and good luck.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.